Media recognition from Bloomberg, Reuters, recycling trade publications. Patented process for 100% recovery of critical metals, including cobalt, lithium, nickel, manganese, aluminum. American Manganese is focused on recycling lithium-ion batteries for electric vehicles. American Manganese trades on the TSX Venture, AMY, the US, AMYZF, and Frankfurt 2AM. For more information, visit AmericanManganeseInc.com or phone me, Larry Ray, at 778-574-4444.
Welcome to the Goddard Report. Comments made on the Goddard Report and TalkDigitalNetwork.com are an expression of opinion only. Here is Jim Goddard.
My guest is Jordan Bateman, Vice President of Communications and Marketing for the Independent Contractors and Business Association in BC. His website, icba.ca. Welcome to the show, Jordan.
Thanks for having me, Jim.
Jordan, are you happy with the measures Finance Minister Bill Morneau has made on behalf of the federal government to help us through this coronavirus crisis?
Well, bluntly, no. No, I'm not. This plan has more holes in it than the Edmonton Oilers defense used to have. Look, it drives me crazy that, first of all, this gets announced Friday morning by the Prime Minister with no details, no backgrounder, no sense of how the program's going to roll out, just that, we're going to do a 75% subsidy, which, by the way, was different than a week earlier where he said it was a 10% subsidy. So you have businesses holding their breath all weekend, waiting for details, which were promised to come out Monday. Nothing comes Monday because they're still working on it. Finally, today we get it, Tuesday, about 11 a.m. The finance minister decides to roll out some details. And essentially, he tells employers, hey, you're not getting a check for 6 weeks. Please, keep your employees on the payroll. We'll reimburse you 75% if you can prove that your business has fallen by 30% March 2020 compared to March 2019. And, if you actually have employees left. And then, no portal, no paperwork, just, hey, it'll be up in 3 to 6 weeks and you should have money in 6 weeks. What's just happened is this wage subsidy program that so many businesses were holding their breath for and hoping would, kind of bridge them through the roughest times of a shutdown that's been ordered by the government, is completely fallen flat. And these businesses, if you're looking at your bottom line, I just don't see how this doesn't trigger, frankly, millions of layoffs. And I'm not sure there is going to be much of an employer sector around in 6 weeks to actually, claim this benefit. So, it's frustrating. I think it's tone deaf. It's everything that's been wrong with the government response so far. It's too bureaucratic. It's too slow. It's a half measure. They love to dress it up in press conferences and warm, reassuring words. But when you actually start to dig into the facts, it's nowhere near enough. And certainly not compared to England or what the United States is doing or what some of the European countries are doing to keep their economies going. It's so disappointing, and I think it's really going to amplify criticism of the federal government's handling of this crisis.
Now, what could the fallout of this be if you have to wait 6 weeks? We just heard of a survey done by the Canadian Federation of Independent Business where around a third of small businesses don't believe they're going to be able to survive this.
Well, I think you just think about anecdotally in your own community, right? Walk down the street, socially distant, of course, and look at all of the stores that are boarded up, the shops that are shut down. Behind every single one of those storefronts is a business owner, someone who put their life and finances on the line to start this business. Many of them employing people, and they're not getting any, they're not getting any help. It's like. It's like a bad movie where, the hero shows up, 6 weeks too late. Like, this has already happened. I just don't see how we're not going to see millions of layoff notices in the next 2 weeks as businesses come to grips with the fact that they can't afford to keep the lights on. They can't afford to keep paying people. I think the government is a huge disservice. Look, speed is better than perfection in this case. And, every single one of these businesses has a CRA account. They pay business taxes. The government knows how much they made last year. just cut them a percentage of their payroll from last year or their revenues from last year, and start there. And if there are companies that are booming during this time, claw it back in taxes later. Like, it's so frustrating that what frustrates me, Jim, is that we're on the front lines. We're a business association. We talk with construction companies, responsible resource development companies, small business owners, and all weekend we're getting emails. What have you heard? What have you heard? Because they want to have hope, and they want to keep their people employed, and they want to somehow nurse their way through this. And then you get this kind of announcement, basically punting it for 6 weeks. I'm kind of shocked that they went this way and that we waited all this time, 4 or 5 days, and this is what we got. So my suspicion is this is really fresh. Over the next day or so, you're going to see the media get an earful from every small business owner they know, with all sorts of very valid questions and concerns. Hopefully the federal government pivots from this and finds a better way to do this quicker.
What would your suggestion be?
Well, my suggestion is look at the revenues that were declared by companies last year on taxes. I believe there's even a line item for wages and benefits, and send every company a refund for a certain amount of that, and let them use that how they see fit to keep their business afloat. The other undertone is this condescending Trudeau and Morneau, warning businesses, if you try to defraud this, we will find you, we will hunt you down, there will be sanctions. So many times we're told by these politicians that really fraud and these sorts of things are tiny, tiny percentage, hardly even worth investigating, most of the time because, so little of it actually occurs. And yet there's this kind of punitive hammer. Every time they talk about this program, they talk about the hammer they're planning to bring down on businesses who would dare to abuse this program. I don't know any businesses who want to abuse this program. I only know business owners who are seeing their livelihoods disappear, who are having to lay off beloved employees, who are having to shut their doors and take a financial bath, and who are concerned about, where am I going to get money next month for rent? Where am I going to get money next month for my mortgage or my groceries for my family? It boggles my mind that they're this tone deaf.
Do you think this government understands that over 70% of jobs in Canada are created by small business?
This is a government whose DNA or whose record on small business is questionable at best. We all recall, I believe it was during some election campaign or when some of the income tax fraud issues were coming around. There were sort of veiled comments that small business was a way to dodge taxes, to basically evade taxes, as if small business owners were somehow nefarious for taking advantage of taxation programs. That is the DNA of this government. I'm just so frustrated by this, and I feel terrible for the employers. And these poor people. There's not. They rush in to help Bombardier. They rush in to help GM when they were down. The big guys, they'll be fine. They'll figure it out. There'll be bailouts for Air Canada and all sorts of things like that. But it's the little guys, these small businesses, 6 weeks to them, it's a life sentence. It's a life sentence. Maybe it's a death sentence for a lot of these businesses. They've got to do better.
We'll have more with Jordan Bateman right after the break.
Bateman Resources Limited is a gold exploration company with significant projects in British Columbia and the Yukon, trading on the TSX Venture Exchange, symbol ABN, and the OTCQB, symbol ABNAF. Surrounded by world-class gold deposits and mines, Bateman's 23,000 hectares Forest Kerr Gold Project is located in the heart of the Golden Triangle in northwestern BC. For more information, visit us at batemanresources.com.
Engineer Gold Mines is focused on the exploration and development of the historic high-grade Engineer Gold Mine situated 32 kilometers southwest of Atlin, British Columbia. Engineer Gold Mines is fully permitted for surface and underground exploration with the drill program now underway. Engineer Gold Mines Limited trades on the TSX Venture Exchange, symbol EAU. For more information, please visit us at engineergoldmines.com.
Welcome back. We're speaking with Jordan Bateman. Jordan, for the individuals who work for these small and medium-sized businesses, they're also in trouble. Should the government just take a look at your tax return, what's your average monthly salary, and just mail them a check right now?
Yeah, exactly. They could put refunds into every single person's CRA account. They could just say, look, 2019, whatever our annual limit was for how much money you can make without paying taxes, just increase it. This is what was suggested by Ken Busenkool, the basic crisis income. Essentially, he said, look, calculate it. Instead of giving people, I forget what it was, $12,000 or $15,000 that you can make without paying taxes, make it $35,000 and refund everyone who's filed their taxes. Number one, that would be great because everyone would file their taxes and you would actually get that information. And number two, it's money that would just appear in people's accounts and they could use it to, float themselves through, these really dark times to start. Instead, it's more paperwork. It's complicated diagrams like, should I apply for EI or should I apply for the Canada Emergency Response Benefit? It's just more red tape at a time where we need less.
Well, also, all these things are depending on applications. That's a lot of bureaucracy. They probably don't have the staff or computer capacity to deal with it. Again, if you just send stuff straight out and then deal with it at tax time next year, the aid is there because this economy is going to stagger, and apparently it's already been shot in one foot by this.
Exactly. Just make sure people know when you send this money out that, hey, if you come out of this pretty well, you're going to be taxed for it. You'll be taxed back. And people can make the decision whether they save it or put it aside or pay the tax or whatever. But instead, we get more paperwork, more bureaucracy at a time where we're sending federal government workers home to work from their offices, which brings up a whole bunch of privacy questions. We're closing Service Canada depots. Canada Post seems really, that's a tinderbox right now between them and their frontline postal workers as far as, is it safe for me to be handling packages and letters? Like, we're really relying on infrastructure here that is already creaking under the weight. Simpler is so much better. It shouldn't take. Bowen Ma, the NDP MLA, she put together a sheet of benefits, things that people could do, announcements, ways to try to make it through this. I think it's 3 friggin' pages long, and it's like everything has like a different program or a different phone number. It's almost a full-time job for people to try to investigate, how to lower their costs. BC Hydro today. They, remind everyone, you can defer your BC Hydro thing, just, call us. Well, that's a lot of phone calls. They're cutting rates by a glorious 1%, big deal. This is getting pretty worrisome. I do think it's time for the province to step up more. I was disappointed last night. John Horgan got on TV and gave a great rah-rah speech, but there was no announcement, no, hey, we're taking the next step in our fiscal plan. The vast majority of the fiscal help the BC government's giving its people and its businesses is simply deferring taxes or deferring payments, all of which will come due at some point. It's frustrating. It's so frustrating because speed is of the essence here if you're going to keep this economy afloat. Otherwise, it's going to be decades before British Columbia picks itself up from this mess.
Again, BC, $500 a month rent supplement. What can you rent in BC for $500 a month?
Well, it's $500 a month rental supplement, but it wasn't available for rent day. Like, it's doubly bad. It's like $500, okay, I guess. I mean, $500, who's going to sneeze at that? We'll all take $500, but at the same time, nothing for mortgage holders. And, they don't give it to you in time to actually pay your rent April 1st. So if you've been laid off in March, I guess, the advice was, try to make nice with your landlord. Meanwhile, the landlords are feeling incredible pressure with mortgages. Most, landlords are pretty highly leveraged. They require rent payments to come in, as per the contracts they sign with tenants, whether it's commercial or residential. And now they're struggling and there's no relief for them on the horizon. And in fact, you get, the BC Government Employees Union instead just kind of floating the idea, no one should pay rent during this time. Like, as if mortgage holders should just default, when that happens.
Well, again, wouldn't it be easy for landlords just to say, my tenant's in trouble, can you pay me the rent for this month to the government?
Exactly. You could do that. Everyone thinks that when you say landlord or like property owner, everyone pictures like, I don't know, super wealthy people like
Fairview
Chip
Cadillac.
Wilson,
Yeah,
Jimmy Pattison, or whoever. But the people who are hurt most by this are the 4 or 5 families in my neighborhood who bought a house, really went all in on a mortgage that's very high for them,
and rent out a
and
suite.
have a mortgage helper suite to help pay for it. And you tell that family, down the street, like, hey, we're taking $1,100 away from you this month because the renter can't pay. And, now they have to go to the bank, and it's a phone call and a tough explanation. And, some banks are giving leeway, others aren't. This is a fast-moving disaster film. This is like an economy going down a toilet drain, as our politicians kind of watch it and react very slowly and then applaud themselves for reacting. It's like, we need to be faster. Speed. Like, if you're going to try to save this economy, if you're going to try to put us in a position to rebound whenever these pandemic regulations come up, you've got to be acting fast now. I've thought for years for taxpayers. Like, I get it. I hate fraud. I don't want to see money abused. I gave out waste awards to governments who wasted money. None of that matters now in this climate. Right now, you're talking about the economic survival of families and of businesses and of seniors and of real human beings. And now is the time for speed, not perfection.
Well, it's so much like a tsunami is hit, and they're telling you they're going to be giving you life preservers 6 weeks from now. Yeah. It's just like they're asking manufacturers to build ventilators. Why don't they just say, if you can build a ventilator, build it, bill us, and ship it? I mean,
exactly.
Why wait for a formal process? Again, they're saying, we'll get a huge bunch of ventilators, but not for 6 weeks.
Yeah, well, exactly. God bless them. Parallel 49 Brewery, a little craft brewery in Vancouver.
Excellent beer.
Yeah, excellent beer. They just started making hand sanitizer. They said, forget it, we're not going to wait to be asked. There's going to be a need for this. And they are selling, basically 200 a liter, 50-gallon drums of this stuff for about $1,400, which is essentially their cost. There's no markup. And it's health authorities, it's TransLink. They're buying this stuff by the drum. And good on them. That's a business that pivoted and said, we're going to keep our folks working, and we're going to produce something that, we need in this moment.
What about all the local scuba shops? Could they not be cranking out ventilators and breathing devices and so on?
I have no idea. Like,
suits.
there's those sleep apnea machines. People have suggested maybe they could be for milder cases. I have no idea of the science behind that. But, hell, let's try it. Like, it's all hands on deck. Like, let's go. Let's try it. I found it very frustrating watching the U.S. media deride the MyPillow guy for standing up next to Trump. This is a guy who built a business from scratch and has now converted that business to creating 50,000 masks a day. And, they treated him like he was a whack job. This guy's a hero. Like, he's kept his people employed. And he's producing masks for a country that is desperately short of protective equipment for frontline healthcare.
I was so impressed with Ontario.
They should be building statues for this guy. Like, it's unbelievable.
I was so impressed. Ontario Premier Doug Ford didn't wait for a government order. He just went down in his pickup truck and grabbed some masks that had just been produced, I think 90,000 of them, and took them to the hospital. He didn't wait. I have never seen a premier do that before in my life. I was so impressed.
Exactly. Bauer hockey equipment. My kid's a hockey player. He's a gear kid. He loves, he can tell you every stick that every NHL player uses. Bauer didn't wait to be asked. They just quit making visors and quit making helmets and started making face masks for doctors and nurses. God bless them. Like, the business community in this country has done more to fight this COVID than most of the politicians. There's a few exceptions. But, they're the ones pivoting. They're the ones trying everything they can to keep things afloat. And, that's what makes me so frustrated is the government needs to reward that partnership, needs to be pushing these folks forward, and needs to be helping them make it through these rough times.
Someone said they just came up with a $100 design for a simple ventilator. Why not put that online on everybody who's back yard mechanic or inventor would gladly pitch in and build some of those.
Totally. People who have 3D printers, which still mystify me and feel like Star Trek, but whatever. They've put on, most of the, I guess there's like a whole web world for 3D printing aficionados and owners. And they're all like working on little masks and ventilator hookups and things like that. Let's make it easy for them. Open source that code. Like, give them what they need to do it. Like, it's just crazy to me that we're scratching and clawing and like, I don't know. I don't know, Jim. Like, this is unprecedented. I get it. This is, all the different comparisons, the Great Depression, the World War, we're living in historic times, yada, yada, yada. That's all fine and good for historians to write after the fact. Living in the middle of it, we've got to find ways to keep people whole, to keep people afloat, and to give hope. Yesterday's briefing with Dr. Henry in BC and Adrian Dix was demoralizing for a lot of people because, basically they said, we're going to have these restrictions until the summer. We may get a reprieve in the summer, and then there'll be a second wave in the fall. Well, like in our house, we go to bed every night. We pray with our 10-year-old, and we pray for a vaccine. Like, that seems to be the only way out of this now. And whoever's out there, Big Pharma, save us, Big Pharma. That might be the only way to save this thing, because it's clear to me that the politicians, I don't know. I'm kind of stream of consciousness here, Jim, and I apologize for it, but it just reinforces to me how important it is at all levels of government to have bright, intelligent, listening, and people ready to react who run for office. We got to get outside of these. Too many politicians are too timid in these times, or are, kind of hiding out or on the sidelines, or think their job is to be a cheerleader. Now, we need decision makers, for good or for bad, in government. And I do think one of the outcomes of all this is that more people who maybe would have been in the private sector to make a bunch of money and build a business and do all that kind of stuff, I do wonder if more of them will consider public service and politics and moving into that field, because they're going to see firsthand how important it is to have good leaders, smart people at the table.
Well, former Vancouver public health officer Dr. John Blatherwick told me in a situation like this, it's important to make decisions quickly, act on them quickly, and stick to your guns and be more aggressive. He said, no one will ever criticize you if you were too protective and too active, but boy, if you're not, look at the criticism after that.
Yeah, and where I think that example comes up is the idea of masks, right? Like, after SARS, especially in Chinese communities in BC, when someone would feel sick, they would put on a mask. And the mask wasn't to protect them from germs. It was to protect you from them spreading their germs. And it just became more socially acceptable. And, it was disconcerting, for a lot of us Westerners, what is this? But maybe that's where we should go. Even if masks only prevent 80%, 20% of the flus and viruses to go around, maybe we should be asking people, hey, you're in isolation, sew some masks. Let's start building some homemade masks. Like, let's get going on that and wear them when you're out. Like, not to reduce your own, not to reduce your own risk as far as breathing in something, but to reduce the risk of you spreading it to others. Like, it's time for us as a society to start talking about these things and thinking about these things. Because like your doctor said, if we're wrong, well, we've erred on the side of caution, or we've erred on the side of going too far safety-wise. That's not the worst thing in the world.
We'll have more with Jordan Bateman right after the break.
Cypress Development Corp. is developing a world-class lithium resource in the heart of Clayton Valley, Nevada. The size of the resource makes the Clayton Valley project a premier asset with the potential to impact the future of lithium supply. Cypress Development Corp. trades on the TSX Venture Exchange, symbol CYP, the OTCQB, symbol CYDVF, and on Frankfurt, symbol C1Z1. For more information, please visit our website, cypressdevelopmentcorp.com.
Don't miss out. Stay informed. Receive the HowStreet.com weekly recap with thought-provoking podcasts, radio, and articles delivered to your inbox. Sign up for the HowStreet.com weekly recap on our homepage at HowStreet.com.
Welcome back. We're speaking with Jordan Bateman. Jordan, how safe are construction workers who are still employed and still working on some projects?
Yeah, well, Dr. Henry declared construction as one of the essential services. And when you think about it, that makes sense. We can't have buildings, construction covers everything from, building from the ground up, but also maintenance. You can't have HVAC systems going down, or you can't have plumbing not being fixed or being built. So we need that infrastructure. But she's laid out very stringent rules, which have been augmented by WorkSafe BC, which have been added to by the Canadian Construction Association and the BC Construction Safety Alliance. Individual companies, and if people want to see some of this, you can go to icba.ca/coronavirus. We've compiled some of these. Individual companies have created their own site safety documents. If you follow the rules, it is a very, 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 very low risk job. You can space people out. You can take the time you need. Lots of this is outdoors. It is a low risk activity. But every activity has risks this day and age. But this one is very low, especially if you take those necessary procedures. And I got to say, the industry's been working hard to do that. There have been, stories of plumbers showing up on site and building hand washing stations. They just kind of do it and make it happen. And off you go. Then that one's done. They go up to the next site and do the same thing. Gatherings, there are no big site gatherings. People are working a certain distance apart. There's caps on how many people can ride in lifts and elevators. All of this is being taken care of, and it's thanks to Dr. Henry's office giving us the rule book by which to follow.
Jordan, thank you so much for being on the show.
Thanks for having me.
And stay safe out there.
Yeah, you too.
My guest has been Jordan Bateman, Vice President of Communications and Marketing for the Independent Contractors and Business Association. His website, icba.ca. If you have any questions for Jordan or any of our other guests, you can send them to info@howstreet.com. Our YouTube channel is Talk Digital Network. Find us on Twitter @TalkDigitalNet. We're also on Facebook. I'm Jim Goddard. Thank you for listening.
Comments made on the Goddard Report and TalkDigitalNetwork.com are an expression of opinion only. The Goddard Report is available online and mobile at TalkDigitalNetwork.com. The Goddard Report is a production of How Street Media Incorporated.